There's a forest in Romania that believers flock to and scientists are stumped by. The trees grow in impossible ways, and people claim to have come face to face with a demon. But what's really lurking inside these woods? Just outside of Cluj-Napoca? Perhaps we're not meant to know. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Radley apparently is just determined to be front and center at some point in these videos, so what better time than now? As promised, we are going to briefly venture away from cryptids, but we are going to mention aliens briefly. But I wanted to hop into some spooky, more paranormal, ghosty stuff. So I found this forest that's in Romania, and even though I knew that my pronunciation would be painful, I had to talk about it because I found it so interesting. Even if you're not a believer in the supernatural, you would probably agree that creepy is a great adjective to describe this place. Like I mentioned, the trees growing in impossible ways, they do. They come in all sorts of weird patterns. I'll try to put a picture here. And scientists have no explanation. We'll get to some of the theories momentarily, but generally, we don't know. And more so, the stories that people have are quintessential horror movie kind of stuff. So, firstly, if you're thinking, well, it's Romania, we're near Transylvania, of course there's creepy stuff going on. Yes, but also no, because while you may be thinking Dracula, Vlad the Impaler is kind of a local folk hero here, so if you're thinking, ooh, this will be a great place for my haunted road trip across the world, you might be disappointed. But these woods, probably gonna live up to your expectations. One of the things that's just super interesting about this space, Radley, there's a cuter half of you that could be in this frame. Okay, there's a perfect oval where nothing grows, and people have tried to open portals. People have had a lot of rituals, but as far as plants or trees, nope, not happening here. People have reported feeling sick, and people have reported their phones doing really weird things. Anyone who has a phone knows that that's not that strange, but I don't mean like, oh, I have no service, or ooh, my call failed. I mean, it'll just start ringing, or it'll show that they have like voicemails that they didn't have, just really bizarre things that you don't typically experience just because you're in the woods. The other thing that really stood out to me is that people have reported seeing ectoplasms. If you, like me, love the spooky stuff, then you probably are familiar with what ectoplasm is, but if you're not, quick informative moment here. Facts. Ectoplasm is this weird substance that you will see a lot in like spirit photography from the 1800s. And a lot of it was debunked way back then as being like cheesecloth and like milk and different, think of like making paper mache. It's kind of like that. But the idea, the sham behind it was that people were supposed to think, ooh, look at this spirit that's like coming out of this person's orifices. Cute. So the fact that people are just seeing this like manifest in the middle of the woods, that's a surefire way to ruin a romantic picnic. Like, oh honey, look over there at all that ectoplasm. What? Shadowy creatures also show up, so that's, you know, classic. And people also see demons. It is a large plot of land. It is bigger than Skinwalker Ranch. We're looking at about 730 acres here. And people do use it to bike or walk or hang out with their family. But it is often referred to as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania. So if that gives you any indication of the vibe around it, there you go. One of the most common stories, like one of the first things that's gonna show up if you Google this place, is this story of a little girl who vanished when she was about 5. No one could find her, she was gone. She re-emerged decades later and hadn't aged a day. I don't know about you, but bottle whatever's in these woods, I'd like to buy some. This forest is also famous for alien sightings. I told you we would briefly talk about aliens, and here we are. We've arrived. Alien sightings, first and foremost, not that new of a thing, especially in the US. We talk about them. They're a dime a dozen. I literally saw an alien reporting on my Nextdoor app the other day. That's the world we live in. But the forest itself is actually named after a shepherd who went missing with his flock of like 200 sheep. How? And then there's also a man who claimed that he saw UFOs in 1968. Now again, in the US, by the 60s, by almost the 70s, not that crazy. We were talking about aliens. We thought we saw them. Now my cat's gonna try to get in the frame. But even though they were pretty common in the US, in Romania, this was not a thing that you wanted to say that you saw. Because in Romania, it's just a zoo. Just close your eyes and let me tell you this story. But in Romania, if you said, hey, saw a UFO, not only were they going to think that you were insane, you were going to lose your job. Your life was basically going to be ruined, not just because the locals were going to talk about you, but because the government was going to say that you were insane and unfit to exist with normal people. And that's exactly what happened to this young man. He was fired from his job, and his whole life was ruined because he insisted, I saw UFOs. And to me, while obviously that's heartbreaking, I also think that it's so interesting because he knew that making that kind of claim could have detrimental consequences, and he still said, you guys, this happened to me. And to me, that tells me everything. That makes me believe him because he had to talk about it. You know, maybe I could be totally wrong, but to me, I think that says something. Since then, of course, many people say that they see aliens. We've got cat ears here. We've got Bradley sitting on my lap. Welcome to my channel, you guys. Many people have reportedly taken pictures of UFOs and also of demons and just generally really creepy things. But one of the really prevalent reportings in this forest is that the ghosts that are there, not super benevolent. In fact, people walk out with scratches, bruises, all sorts of injuries with no explanation of how they received these injuries. So a lot of people think that the spirits are ghosts of peasants who were murdered decades ago. But the thing that I question about that is that if they were murdered and met this terrible, untimely death, why are there reports of women giggling and laughing in the forest? Now, there are also reports of women screaming in the forest, and that to me makes a lot more sense because if I were murdered somewhere, I think I would be a little stressed out to be trapped there forever. But I don't know. Never been murdered somewhere. Another thing that is super duper common is the report that people hear hooves. And a lot of people think that they sound like horse hooves. But to me, if you're talking about being in the woods that are super creepy and you're hearing hooves and people think that they see demons in the woods, I'm not thinking a horse. I'm thinking a goat-headed devil, you know, I don't know. But I like the idea of just like a ghost horse just like princely prancing through there being like, oh, don't mind me. But I don't get the vibe that that's what's happening. So quickly, theories. Some scientists think that the tree thing is because of magnetic fields. And this would also explain why cell phones have such a hard time functioning and why they function so strangely. Because, yeah, magnets are going to mess with your cell phone. But let's be real, that's a really boring explanation. So I'm gonna stick with demons and ghosts and stuff. But that's it. So I know it's a shorter video. I know there was a lot of distraction with my animals. I know I'm talking quickly to try to get it done, but either way, that's where we are. So have you ever been there? I'd love to hear about it. If you've been there, what did you think? And also, what do you think? Do you think that it's just magnets? Do you think that it's demons? What's your theory? I'd love to hear about it. And I would also love to know what you want me to talk about next time. So I know this was just sort of a real quick in and out. Hopefully you don't mind. Maybe you like that. And I know this video was late. I actually filmed this. I was super ahead of schedule, and then I watched it and I hated it. The angle was weird. I didn't like any of it. So not that this is much better. Welcome to It's Nighttime. But still, I wanted to redo it, and then life happened. I was late getting this redone. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you in a couple weeks. I won't be back next week because I'm going on an adventure, but then I'll be back. So bear with me. Let me know what you want to see next time, and until then, stay spooky. Bye, guys.